From the 915 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between, this is the 50/50 Podcast, powered by the 50/50 Podcast Network. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 Podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated to the beautiful game. Here we go. It's another edition of the 50/50 Podcast. We are joined live, episode 120, by the head women's soccer coach of the Rice University Owls, head coach Brian Lee. Coach, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Excited to have you here, Coach. Awesome. As we were talking offline, I know we've been wanting to get you here for a while now, so we're very excited to have you here. Very grateful for your time, for your accessibility, which is always a great thing with all our coaches, especially with our college coaches in season, getting ready for UAB tomorrow night as well, right? So don't want to keep you too long, but we're grateful for your time, Coach. So tell us, we're going to go ahead, we're going to dive right in, but tell us before that, how are things going?
Things are good at Rice. We're super happy with how the season's gone so far, as any coach would be. We're happy with where we are, but we're super excited about what we can become. Got another 6 weeks. College season's not a marathon, it's a sprint. So we're excited to see where this ends up.
Yeah, awesome. So thoughts on anything you can share just briefly with us as far as tomorrow night, UAB, American Athletic Conference action? Anything you can share with us about tomorrow night?
Well, UAB is a really good team. They're coming off a tie 0-0 with top 10 Memphis, who's been the elite program in the AAC for a few years. Super strong defensively, really, really well coached. Yeah. They're the type of team when a coach sees them, you're like, hey, I like that. And they're playing to their strengths. So it's going to be a tough challenge.
Yeah. Awesome. Great deal. Yeah. And, we'll talk a little bit more about that AAC action, what it's like playing in very tough conference, and where you currently are, where you find yourselves. But, we look at your season as a whole, you're doing very, very consistent. That's been one of the things that we can expect from the Rice Owls. 7-2-1 on the year, 1-1 in conference play. And I think you're kind of in that mix of tied for, I think, second or third, I think right now, right, Coach? Somewhere in there in that mix. So tell us, I guess, what's the best way you can kind of briefly describe to us? Here you are 10 games into your season, and you just mentioned it's a sprint, not a marathon, right? But what can you share with us about just your initial thoughts on the season so far?
Well, college soccer is so interesting. Everyone follows college football, but in college soccer, the transfer portals made a big difference as well. We probably have 5 grad transfers in our team right now. We have a recruiting class that was ranked in the top, I think, 35 in the country. So you come in college, you get 2 weeks of preseason. We start in August. First time we can be on the field with them. Next thing you know, you're playing a game 2 weeks later. So it's a real formative process, especially with the fifth years and the COVID kids getting the extra year. And we have some really good players, but we're just trying to get them all in the right shape and the right positions for them and where they can be the very best versions of themselves. So we think we're coming into that. And we're excited to see where these last 9-10 games go.
Yeah, good stuff. Now, you talk about just how quick it gets going, right? Just your preseason, then you start the season itself, non-conference, and now here you are about to play your third match of conference play tomorrow night. What has maybe, as you were going into it a few weeks back, right? You were going into the start of your season. What has maybe been the thing you least expected that has unfolded in your season thus far?
Well, on a positive side, it's really the chemistry of the group. when you bring a bunch of new players together, you don't know, are they going to like each other? And we, coaches, we all know how important that is.
Right.
The,
Yeah.
the team chemistry element, and our team is really, really meshed well. They like each other a lot. And, most important to me is you want every kid on your team to be having a positive experience, whether they're the 32nd player or their leading scorer. And right now with our team, I think, the kids who are playing a lot feel great. And so do the kids who aren't. And it's such a
Mhm.
big deal as you hit the final stretch that you have that kind of chemistry.
Gotcha. Now, the non-conference, right? Non-conference versus now in conference. As we mentioned, your third match tomorrow night versus UAB. How do you approach that? As long as you've been around, from your time at LSU and then prior to that as well, how do you approach what has remained largely the same in terms of your approach, your thoughts going into non-conference play and then that transition into conference play?
Well, now conferences are always about getting better. And you really want to peak in November. You want to peak at the end of the year, but you want to grow into that during the conference season. And you get these 8, 10 games of non-conference. And every year is so different to me. If you have an
Mhm.
experienced team and you know what you got going in, versus say this year for us, we don't really know. We know we have a bunch of talented kids, but how are they going to mesh together? And, for us, it's as coaches, it's can you get them in the right spots as much as anything? Are you playing the right kids? All that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
for us this year, it's meshing very well, but it's the biggest challenge to me as a college
Mhm.
coach.
And that transition between non-conference and conference, coach, has there been maybe a particular element or two in terms of whether it's the college game or maybe your approach? What has maybe changed in the last few years on how you approach that from that transition from the start of the year, non-conference to then conference?
Well, I think with everybody, there's when you get in the conference season, there's history involved with the teams you played. In the non-conference, you're playing some different teams. You might have a couple teams you play every year where the kids feel comfortable with what I'm getting into. But once you hit the conference season, everybody knows a lot about each other.
Mhm.
And it's how you adjust to that. And, you know, coaches are similar. What do they like to do? So it's always a different challenge.
Yeah. And, we talked about non-conference. I know recently in your non-conference schedule, you played the defending national champions, right? Who's really the gold standard in college, women's college soccer right now, in the Florida State Seminoles. What was that? You talk about your group, right, and where you're at. What was that experience like, and what was the big takeaway there?
Well, it's literally so in our non-conference season, we went unbeaten other than Florida State.
Yeah.
And if you are picking one game for us where we grew the most,
Mm,
even the kids took the most confidence coming out of it. It was Florida State, where we played the defending national champs. Maybe they were number one in the country when we played them. And post game, we lost, only game we lost, and the kids gained so much confidence and so much belief in what we were doing coming out of that game, much more so than the games we won.
yeah. Great stuff. Now, I love asking this particular type of question to coaches, whether it's high school or even college, right? College coaches. But help us understand, for those of us that maybe aren't as familiar with whether it be college soccer or maybe don't watch as much, the AAC, the American Athletic Conference. I always like to ask if you could describe your conference, right? If you could describe the AAC in terms of just maybe certain characteristics of what it's like playing, describing the conference to someone, certain characteristics or the personality of that conference. How would you describe it to someone?
A great question. Well, I think when you go through a non-conference schedule, you're seeing teams of all shapes and sizes and things like that. The AAC, we're a conference that's right behind the Power Four. When I describe women's college soccer, I really describe it as Power Eight, where I include the AAC and the West Coast Conference because you got the Santa Claras, you got Georgetowns who are
Right.
nationally competitive, and our conference, the AAC, is just that next level. It's right below the Florida States of the world, but every game is so competitive and there's so much parity. It's
Mhm.
in different styles, and we got direct teams, and we've got possession oriented teams, and teams building out of the back, and teams that are up and in on it on every time they get a chance, and it's just a different challenge.
Yeah. As coaches, we're constantly evaluating, assessing, right, reflecting on our team. What would you say maybe you have learned about your team so far? If you could identify maybe one or two key things, what would they be, coach?
Well, I think it's the best thing we're all looking for in our team, regardless of shape of game and how it's going. I think we're tough, we're gritty, we're driven, we're very process oriented toward the result. Though I mean they're process oriented, but they really are driven to achieve success, which is the best thing you can find in a team. It doesn't matter if we're playing a team that's possession oriented or we're playing a direct team. They just want to find a way to win, and it's the most exciting thing I can have for a team moving forward.
Great stuff. We talk about you're at a great school, prestigious school in Rice University. What would you say maybe you come across as the most, I guess, one of the maybe the biggest misconceptions about Rice University?
Yeah, when it comes to soccer and just athletics as a whole, I think you get a misconception that these kids are choosing Rice just for academics, and they're not going to be competitive athletically. But what we really get are these A-type kids who they want to make straight A's. I promise, and that is the number one priority. But they want to achieve at everything they do. And in soccer, if they're not succeeding, they're frustrated and they want to do better. And we have a group of kids every year. It's the one consistent thing is just they want to be the best they can be, whether it's athletics or academics.
Right. And it's one thing I can tell you about your program, coach, in particular. I can very much relate. Having my time when I was at the Air Force Academy, right, with the women's program, I can very much relate to that same type of dynamic. So I have a ton of respect for your school and obviously your program and what you've done there. So can definitely relate to that. Um, One of the things we like to ask here, sometimes put coaches a little bit on the spot, right? Is we know in a perfect world, and if you had all the time in the world, which we don't, but if we both had all the time in the world, every coach would want to rant and rave about every single one of their players, right? But what is maybe if you could identify a player or two that you'd like to acknowledge that maybe we should know a little bit more about? Can you share that? Tell us a little bit more about maybe a couple of players of yours.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have two. I have a grad transfer from Rhode Island, who's a goalkeeper, who at Rhode Island, she did just fine, but she came to us. She was in the transfer portal and she's like, hey, I really want to be a pro. And
Okay.
Faith Hutchins is her name. And she's absolutely going to catch on with an NWSL roster next year. Super athletic, of interest to people, multi sport athlete. Came out of high school, was debating between soccer, basketball, or softball. Very good at all. Kind of a COVID kid,
Mhm.
so she was caught in between on that. And she's exceptional. And then on the flip, there's Leah Chansey, who's a transfer to us from SMU, where at SMU she was a starter, but a solid contributor. And she's come to Rice and developed a leadership personality. I think right now she's scored in 6 games in a row. And we played a lot of 1-0, 2-1 games where those goals are huge. So, those two are the two I would focus on.
Great stuff. Awesome. And we hope to see her on an NWL roster next year, coach. That's great stuff. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Um, we transition here a little bit, coach, and we start looking at the sport big picture, right? 35,000 foot view. What would college athletics has gone through, I talk about this all the time, right? I know you know this, right? How much change has really happened in college athletics in probably I'd say the last what's going on 6 years, 7 years, but particularly what we've seen in the last probably 2 years, 3 years. Um, what is maybe the biggest when you start looking at college? Let's remove college soccer from college athletics and focus on college soccer right now. What has been maybe the biggest change that has surprised you about college soccer?
Well, right now it's the parity, and it's parity based on the very best players are going pro. So now, once you eliminate with the North Carolinas and the Stanfords of that elite player who has now turned pro in the women's game, which happened
Right.
in the men's game maybe 20 years ago,
Right.
15 years ago with the advent of the MLS. Right now, that's happening with college women's soccer. And for college coaches, everyone looks at it as like a negative. I look at it as a positive
Correct.
because it really tunes into, you know, development of players. It turns into, team chemistry, all of these kind of things. So the
Mhm.
parity now, you can have totally Rice could make a Final Four, where if North Carolina had these kids who were turning pro on their roster, we're not making a Final Four because the
Right.
talent gap is too big.
Yeah.
And it's great for those kids going pro, awesome for them. But for the college kids falling in behind it, now it creates a whole new dynamic where, somewhere like a Rice, you might be able to win national championship, or even a Texas A&M who's never done that, or a Texas
Mhm.
who hasn't been to a Final Four. That's a realistic possibility now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know obviously it goes without saying that it's been more recent or players on the women's side that are now going direct pro. But the parity piece, when did you start seeing that change? About how long ago would you say you started to clearly notice it?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's the development of like youth soccer. So 10 years ago, the average player was nowhere near the elite player, and the super elite player was nowhere near the player right beneath them. So,
Mhm.
but now you can get way down the 350 plus Division One teams, and everybody's okay. If we play Sam Houston, it's going to be a great game. They got 14 kids who are pretty good. And 10 years ago, if Rice played Sam Houston, we're going to win. Doesn't matter. And if Texas A&M played Rice, Texas A&M was going to win. But now the level of that next level kid is so much higher, and everybody's got a chance at every game. It's really great.
That is some great info, great breakdown there. I It makes total sense. I had never really looked at it quite that way in terms of that breakdown of the gap difference per se, right? But that's a great breakdown, coach. Um, what Here's something a little different. So next, what is maybe the next big change that you, Coach Brian Lee, would like to see in college soccer?
Well, what we really need, I mean, in women's soccer, women's college soccer, the most famous women's team in the world, any sport, is the U.S. women's national team. But for soccer in college, we've fallen behind softball and we've fallen behind volleyball, despite not having that elite team that everybody follows. No one knows who the women's world champion in volleyball is, an amateur level, but they sure know who it is in soccer. But we've fallen behind them. It's can we get our marketing piece as a college, institution up to that? And part of that is, can we expand the Final Four? Can we make an Elite Eight? Can we make it
Mhm.
look like the TV friendly College World Series for softball, which right now is gets great ratings and is on ESPN, all that stuff. So it's a marketing piece to me.
Mhm. Yeah, and obviously the 21st century model was out there not too long ago, right on the men's side, as you know. Um, would you be opposed to that? What are your thoughts on that? If that was, because I have a feeling that is going to come back up, right? And part for reasons that you just mentioned, and some of the stuff you mentioned volleyball, and it takes me back to last season where I was watching the I forget when it was. I think it was in December, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It was I was watching Texas and Nebraska, right?
Yeah.
Volleyball national championship. And how they do it is I guess volleyball has they center the final four around their coach's conference, right?
Yeah.
Around, yeah. So and it was, I mean, it was a sight to see. I had never seen it quite like that. You probably had what, a good 25, 30,000 people there, and it was on stage, on display, all by itself. And so I agree with you. I think finding a way to be able to highlight that, because the current model and how it's set up with our men's, our women's and men's college cups, um, I think there has to be some sort of better just tweaking going on there.
Yeah. For me, we've got to get them together.
Hmm.
We need to turn it into an event, which it's not really for us right now. It's this singular standing Final Four for the men, Final Four for the women, and we need to turn it into an event. It's a little bit catch-22 with United Soccer Coaches, which is a great organization, super supportive of college soccer. I've been very involved in it, through my years. But it's almost counterproductive to us because we don't have a college coaches convention the way volleyball does.
Hmm.
They're automatically, you throw every D1 coach there because they have their convention and throw a tournament around it. There's 20,000 people. And for
Absolutely.
soccer, which it's really a more popular sport in what we do than volleyball or softball, but we don't market it the same way around that and give that TV visual that volleyball does. Right now, volleyball's on ABC. They're not just on ESPN. I
Right.
just saw this week, I'm watching like ESPN Get Up in the morning, and they're advertising women's volleyball on ESPN.
Hmm.
Why is that volleyball, not soccer? That's a crazy thought to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Volleyball has definitely figured it out how to do it. So I was very impressed with that with when I saw that last year. And my immediate thought was to go from that to see what the current makeup is of the college cups, right? And
Yeah,
different locations, and just it was, we can do better. I know we can do better.
yeah,
Um,
we can.
and the other piece too is, so I was part of a recent conversation. It was funny, right? It was just kind of a thinking out of the box regarding college soccer. And one just, I don't know, we can call it a proposed plan, but one thing that was kind of thrown out there that was interesting was, if in any way, shape, or form that some variation of the 21st century model was adopted, right, on both the men's and women's side, one of the things that was thrown out there was a spring. A it was interesting. It was a spring. I don't know, April, May, somewhere in there. A spring college cup, men's and women's college cups together, and then a host site that was actually thrown out there was, because they have a great history of hosting Final Fours in general. Was they threw out there the Alamo Dome here in San Antonio, right?
Yeah.
And a city that could host it, that's just well versed in hosting large crowds. But it was interesting because how they broke down it, I think it was like a Wednesday through Sunday or Thursday through Sunday breakdown of both college cups kind of going on at the same time. And it was interesting. It was actually, logistically, it would not be impossible.
No, and really, if you pull us away from American soccer, American football, and get into that time frame, it's also TV friendly.
Hmm.
There are just a ton of things that would push that direction. And I think the women's coaches, we've always been against it because our players are so pro just having the fall. But our players aren't ingrained the way the boys are in developmental. And can I be an MLS player and things like that? And the year-round model certainly fits development way, way better than
Right.
the current
Absolutely.
college model.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the next one where I put you on the spot here, coach. College soccer. Where is it? What does it look like, in your opinion, in 5 years from now?
I think the women's game looks exactly like the men's game right now, where it's, you know, unless we change, unless we head toward the year-round model, unless we figure out a better way to market ourselves, we women's side has lived on. We're the greatest developmental league in the world, and we were for 20 years. If you're looking for the best U20 league in the world, it was women's college soccer. Well, right now that's not true because Europeans have picked up on it, and even US pro soccer, we're seeing our best kids start to go pro and have a real developmental aspect where I can make a living out of playing soccer. 5 years ago, if a kid graduated from Rice, she could make $120,000 going to work for Deloitte as a consultant, or she could go to the NWSL and make 25 grand. That's a
Mhm.
no-brainer. Now that atmosphere is changing for the women the same way it did for the men 5 and 10 years ago. So, something's got to change in that next window, or we'll be just like the men, which has become a real, for lack of a better way to describe it, a D3 developmental league.
Yeah, yeah. I mentioned this in my last or very last episode with Coach Elias Ramos of McKinney Boyd. I mentioned to him when I was back in, I think it was 2013. I think when I was attending the USSF National Youth course. Um, my then senior instructor, he had thrown it out there. I was still at the Air Force Academy at the time, and he had talked about how the college system was essentially the world's largest and the world's best amateur development league,
Yeah.
in the world. And I had never thought about it like that, right? And of course, this is going on almost, what, 11, 12 years ago now. So yeah, so how much it's changed and where it's headed is very interesting to see.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it'll always have a purpose and
Right.
always, serve a certain segment of kids. But right now it's not
Mhm.
serving the elite kids. And even look at our U20 women. We just finished third in the World Cup. Well, about a third of our team were pros. And that's the first time ever. And that's the best we've done a U20 World Cup for the women. Everyone thinks our full team, you know, it does so well. Well, our youth teams haven't been doing great as the rest of the world professionalizes women's soccer. And it's the first time we've had professionals playing against their professionals in the last like 8 years. So it's a different dynamic. And college soccer, we have to work to find what's our niche in the future.
Thoughts on the recent women's Olympics? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I love Emma Hayes. I thought it
Yeah,
was a big step for the women's national team to step out, and I love Vlatko. I think he was caught in a bad situation. I think he is a fantastic coach and a good player developer and a really good human being. But coming out of it, that we went forward and we grabbed Emma Hayes, who's
mhm,
the best. That's the best in the
yeah,
world right now, and had done it in elite leagues and had immediate dividends from it. It's a really good sign for U.S. soccer to care that much about the women and be
yeah.
willing to pay someone at the level they need to pay someone to have the best coach we could have.
One of the best things, one of the things that I personally loved, I think it struck a chord with a lot of people was her post gold medal match conference, right? Where she was, or well, not really the press conference, but she was interviewed on the field, and to see her get choked up about it, and to see her being a native of such as yourself, a native of England, right? But what it meant to her, what it meant to her recognition of just the opportunity of being in her role, her position, right? What it meant to her, and see her get like emotional about it, I think it was beautiful to watch.
Well, her career path's been awesome. And a lot of people don't know she started out as the coach at Iona College.
Mm,
She has a background in U.S. women's college soccer. That's where she started. And it was a long way from Chelsea and obviously a long way from the U.S. women's national team. But I love the idea that she's really a grassroots coach who made her way up, and it's fantastic.
yeah, yeah. So, and as we start to transition here, Coach, we start getting ready to make our way to our second segment. But before that, now this is way off from Emma Hayes and the U.S. Women's National Team. But share your thoughts. Obviously, we have a lot of high school players out here, a lot of high school coaches even listening, right? Thoughts on just what you know, what you've seen, what you can attend, more than what you've just heard. But thoughts on Texas high school soccer?
Well, I think here's the perspective people need to know. We hit a long period where we were not, as a state, we're producing a ton of really good players, but we were not producing elite players. We probably had 20 years from Carla Overbeck to Jaden Shaw, who were in the full women's national team. And right now, we got a ton of kids in the U20s. We got a ton of kids who look like future national team players. So whoever's doing what, and if you're a kid listening to this, I promise when they were 12 and 13 and 14 years old, you start seeing recruit rankings and you start seeing top drawer soccer and that kind of stuff.
Right.
The kids who are at the top of that at 13, 14 in Texas aren't the same kids as when they're 17 and 18. And they're the kids who really drive and they work really hard. And we got a bunch of great coaches in the state. And now we are producing the elite players. When it comes, we are 4, 6, 8 years from there being 3 to 5 Texas born, Texas raised Texas produced women's soccer players who were on the full team. It's clear as day. They're coming. And there was a 20-year gap. So everyone out there, you're doing a great job. And the kids, you're in an environment where you can be on the U.S. women's national team and be the 10th best player on your 8th grade team. If you're in the right setup, you might make it. It's really awesome.
Yeah. And obviously it can go without saying just the amount of great coaches on the club side that we've seen as well, right? And I think some of the best kids that are thriving out there, some of the best student athletes that are thriving out there are the ones where both the club and high school coaches are in that, in that kid's corner, helping them, supporting and working with each other in support of that student athlete. So yeah, got to acknowledge not just our high school soccer coaches, but our club coaches around the state as well. So
both of them are really good. And the best situation is where they work together. Exactly what you just said. Correct. Kennedy Fuller, her younger sister, is doing quite well as well. But that's a kid who enjoyed high school soccer, thrived in club soccer, but really thrived in both. And she's probably a future national team player. And that's something we can all be proud of. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're definitely have her on our radar closely, wishing her the absolute best. I know she's playing with Angel City right now in the NWSL, and she's doing great. So awesome. Well, Coach, that's going to do it for our first segment. We went through that pretty quick. You dropped great information. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Coach Brian Lee after a quick word from our partners. We're thrilled to tell you about our world-class partners, AR Shots, your go-to destination for exceptional photography experiences in San Antonio and across all of Texas. As a seasoned professional and published photographer, Alonso Ramirez specializes in capturing the essence of your most memorable moments. From dynamic team media days and live-action game days to heartwarming family gatherings and elegant senior portraits, he makes every shot count. What sets him apart? His unwavering commitment to deliver the best customer service in the Lone Star State. With major international and professional sports event experience, AR Shots' work speaks for itself. He is dedicated to making your photography experience straightforward and enjoyable. So why settle for ordinary when you can experience extraordinary with AR Shots? Contact him today so he can turn your vision into a stunning reality. Check him out at arshots.net as well as on X and Instagram at ARShots. Looking to step up your social media marketing game? Well, let us tell you about our great friends at Gipper. Gipper is a way that schools, athletic departments, ADs, and coaches create world-class marketing content. Join over 4,000 coaches, ADs, SIDs, and club directors who use Gipper to create high-quality visual branded graphics for your program. The best part? Anyone can do it in seconds on any device without needing any design experience whatsoever. If you do have significant design experience, you're going to love this as well, as you are what they call the power user, and this is designed with you in mind as well. And just for being a listener and supporter of the 50/50 podcast, you can receive savings immediately and save 10% off any first-time Gipper purchase. Simply visit gipper.com/partner/5050 to learn more. Again, that's gipper.com/partner/5050. And then there are our great friends at Global Scarves, both Bill and Kyle. They are the top providers of custom knitted scarves, beanies, and other fan merchandise in the U.S. All merch is fully custom with free design services and free shipping on all orders. They do so much more, guys, than just scarves. Blankets, beanies, you name it. It's all designed and all customized to your specifications and needs. You can contact them at info@globalscarves.com to get any free designs or quotes built out for your school, club, or maybe even a supporters group. Simply mention the podcast or use the code #5050pod and they will be sure to take care of it. All right, and we are back with Coach Brian Lee, the head women's soccer coach of the Rice Owls, here, episode 120 of the 50/50 podcast. Coach, the moment of truth has arrived. Counterattack time. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Your game. I love it. All right. If you could speak any other language, what would it be and why?
Oh, it'd be Spanish. It would go so far.
All right. All right. If you need any lessons, let me know. I can give you some.
All right.
All right. Something that never fails to make you laugh.
Oh, Old School. The movie Old School.
The movie. Oh, okay.
I could watch the first 15 minutes of that movie. I'm dying.
Yeah. Awesome. Morning person or night owl? No pun intended. All right. Right. So morning
Oh,
person or night owl?
they, no matter the pun, I'm a morning person. I'm up at 3:34 every morning.
There you go. All right. All right. If you could do one or the other, rewind. So in regards to time, right? Rewind, go back in time, or pause time. Which would it be?
Well, that is a tough one. I love where I'm at today, but I'd love to rewind time. I love every bit of my background and every decade of my life. It's been entertaining.
Great stuff. All right. Your go-to karaoke song. You have one?
Oh yeah, I do. I spent 15 years in Louisiana, so it's Louisiana Saturday night.
Oh,
Love it.
nice. Okay. All right. Interesting one. All right. What do you, in your personal opinion, right? There's all kinds of crazy Guinness Book of World Records out there, right? What is a world record you feel you have a legitimate shot at beating? Is there one out there?
I don't know if there's one out there. That is a great question. I think it's most things accomplished by like 5 a.m. It goes back to I get up at like 3:30 in the morning, especially during this season, and
Right.
I get a ton of work done.
Yeah. Great stuff. You sound like a military man. Huh? I like
I
it.
am a
Yeah.
military family. You
Yeah.
you
Right.
called it.
Right. All right. The object you misplace or lose the most.
Oh God, my phone
Your phone.
constantly.
Yeah.
It's painful.
All right. I guess with me, it would be my keys. And why I say more of an emphasis on misplace, only because I'm guilty of it, coach. I did it just last week. I was looking for my truck keys as they were in my hand. So I,
Oh, you're just getting older.
yeah, I do it. I do it regularly. So, all right. Next one. Strangest thing in your refrigerator right now.
Strangest thing in my refrigerator right now is a key lime pie that's been there for like 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. That's not too crazy. So,
No.
my personal favorite is probably still G. Greary, right, at A&M said
Oh yeah.
dog food.
Oh yeah. He's
So,
got
yes.
dogs. He loves
Yeah.
his dogs.
Yeah. That one just caught me by surprise for whatever reason. All right. Current book you are reading or recently read.
Oh, um, it's I don't even know the name of it. It's Tao. Basically, the whole Tao concept. I'm reading a
Mm,
book on that. I love it.
okay. Good. So this is a two-parter. Second part, maybe is there a book that you consider the most influential book, maybe a book that had the most influence on your coaching career?
Oh, that's a great question. And I would go with Roy Keane's autobiography.
Mm,
Loved it.
okay. All right. Good deal. So one I'm currently reading, I have it up here. So here we go. I know you mentioned yet. So German on player development.
Oh
All right.
yeah.
So Beyond the Cones, if you have it. So I got about halfway through it a couple of years ago, and I just started all over again. Recently started it. So it's something that I'm really focusing on right now in terms of with my teams as well. So great
Yeah.
read.
And
Great
and
investment
along
to read.
those lines, I love inverting the pyramid.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah.
great book
Yeah. The history of
for
football
any young
tactics. Yeah.
coaches. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
great.
Great book. So I think I kid you not, coach. I'm pretty sure that one is in my truck. Have
Oh
that
yeah.
one in my truck. So
That's a go back to.
right. Exactly. Exactly. So your favorite number and why?
Oh, number 4. It was my number when I was a kid playing in Emlyn Hughes, the old Liverpool center back.
Hmm.
And military family. I grew up in Scotland when Liverpool was at their finest. Number 4.
Gotcha. Great stuff. Um, Next one, ghosts. Yes or no?
Oh, real.
Yeah.
Ghosts are real.
Yeah.
They're
Is there a
there.
particular story, particular reason why you feel something, experience, anything you can share?
No, I'm a believer in all the conspiracy theories. Ghost goes with it.
Yeah.
You hit me with a conspiracy theory. I am in.
You go down that rabbit hole, right?
Oh, I do. Oh yeah.
All right. All right. So, as a coach, not as a player, right? Any game day superstitions and or rituals?
Oh yeah. I have a ton. If
Oh,
we're
really?
winning, yeah, oh yeah. If we're winning, I don't get a haircut.
Okay.
I can't get a haircut, and if we're winning, uh,
That one's off the table for me. So, all right.
yeah, it should be off the table for me. That's why I'm wearing a hat. The and this is, it might not be safe for a normal podcast, but I got colors of underwear I like. I will wear the opponent color of underwear, and if
What?
we're winning, I'll keep wearing that.
Wow. Well, how now? Dare I ask how that one came to be?
I don't know. It really just I stumbled into it.
Yeah.
I don't wear like the rice color. I will wear our opponent color.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting little twist. All
It
right.
is.
Good deal. Yeah. Good deal. Thank you for sharing that. All right. So next one, coach, you got to start one, bench one, and cut one. All right. We're going to kind of pick on some relatively recent legendary midfielders here in Andres Iniesta, Luka Modric, and Andrea Pirlo. You got to
Oh
start one, bench one, cut one. What do you do?
God, that's good. I would start Modric. I want to win.
Yeah.
I would.
Very good. Good man.
I don't know where I would cut Perlo, although he's unbelievable.
Right.
And what did you call the middle?
Iniesta, Andres Iniesta.
Yeah, I didn't know, but what did you call it? What is the verbiage you use? Start, cut, or play?
Sorry, bench, start, bench, and cut. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, I would just bench him,
Bench.
but I
Yeah.
like him.
Maybe a
Yeah.
super sub, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I love
Yeah.
Modric.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, I'm a Real Madrid fan, so yeah, so I'm with you on that one. All right, favorite sports movie, or if you're like me, I have three top threes. So if you have more than one, you can share those. But favorite sports movie.
Favorite sports movie. I got a couple angles on it. If we're calling Happy Gilmore a sports movie, love it.
There you go.
Victory.
It qualifies.
Victory is up there for me. Might show my age, but I love Victory. Those are probably my two.
Yeah, Victory. Victory was a little before my great movie, a little before my time, but still, yeah, definitely great movie. And but yeah, it was. I'm trying to remember. Do you recall what the release date on Victory was?
Oh, geez, it's got to be 19. It's in the 80s for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, a kid at the time, I loved soccer, and there were so many cameos. Osvaldo Ardiles was in it.
Yeah.
Everyone knows Pele was in it.
Right.
But yeah.
So I imagine you're all about this upcoming Happy Gilmore 2, right? I imagine.
I'm in. We'll see how it is, but I'm in.
So my understanding, though, I don't know if you've heard this, but my understanding, it's going to be a straight to Netflix because of oh my God, I'm drawing a blank on his name because of
Adam Sandler's
Adam Sandler's deal with Netflix. So I hadn't actually heard that or seen that anywhere, but I was just recently told that by a friend. So
that is probably true.
I guess they're talking about projected release date of this time, maybe next year, probably. So it will be. I know there's going to be a lot of people looking forward to that. So big fan of that as well. So something you pretend to hate but actually love.
Oh, that's a good question. Forwards who don't pass the ball.
Spoken like a true coach. Yeah. I think we are. I think we're all guilty of that one. So great stuff. All right, final one, coach. Gonna put you on the spot here. I love asking this one of every college coach we have on. Okay. So finish this sentence for me. The 2024 season for Rice Owls women's soccer will be a success if.
Oh, good one. If the whole team keeps pushing together the way they do right now, I'm super on. We have 32 kids on the team. I feel like the 32nd kid is as important as Leah Chansey in our team right now, who has scored goals in 6 games in a row. If she keeps that mentality, the season will be a success.
Awesome. Great stuff. That's going to do it, Coach. We're done. We have wrapped up. That does it for Counterattack. You survived, right? I told you we would have
survived.
So
Wasn't easy.
we wouldn't rough you up too much. You did great. You did great. There's a couple of tough ones in there, but we like to have fun with it too. And you were a good sport, so we appreciate that. But as we start to wrap up here, Coach, right in our stoppage time, our last piece here, we like to give an opportunity, right, for our guests. We give them the floor and tell any opportunity to, whether it's shout outs, thank yous, or just talk about maybe relay a message they'd like to share with everybody as it, regarding the sport, regarding our sport, regarding the game. um, this opportunity is yours. The floor is yours. So please go ahead.
Well, I love what you're doing. I love the promotion of Texas soccer. And most important to me, I think Texas men's youth soccer has been great for 30 years. I think we've been producing world class players, Clint Dempsey, guys like that. And I would just want to give a shout out to everybody involved with the women's game, because the last 3 or 4 years, we have started to produce world class women's players and catch up to the same level of men in our state in terms of what we're producing. And I'm super proud to be from Texas. I'm super proud to represent Texas as a soccer coach. And I think the future is so, so bright for both the men and the women. And I appreciate everything you do. I think this podcast is awesome. I think grassroots is so important, and that the homogeny between high school, college, and even our pro teams in the state is massively important. So I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. We appreciate the kind words, Coach. And, coming from you, given your background, and even, just I love all your time that you spend at LSU as well. And hearing you say to be proud to be from Texas and your time here, what you've done for our sport in the state. And you're doing it you're doing it at a phenomenal, right, at a world class institution as well. Very glad, very happy to have you here. Your accessibility, your time, everything, we're grateful. As you get ready again. So game 3, the American Athletic Conference tomorrow night versus UAB. Where can we find that, Coach? Is that going to be on ESPN Plus?
Yeah, it's on ESPN Plus. It's one of the big things for us. We moved to the AAC from the CUSA, and both good soccer conferences, but the coverage on AAC is unbelievable.
Yeah.
The ESPN Plus piece is fantastic.
Yeah. Awesome. Great stuff. Well, thank you for being here, Coach. Again, so for our listeners, for our supporters, thank you again. We always say you are the reason why we do it, why we continue to do it. We've been a little bit more strategic, right, in terms of our episodes as of late, having less, but trying to get the right guests, working with their schedules as well. So great guests such as Coach Lee here tonight. Our next episode, you be on the lookout for that. We will be coming to you live next Monday, September 30th, as we'll be joined by Coach Stephanie Webb, the head women's soccer coach of the UT Tyler Patriots. Excited to have her on as well. She's doing phenomenal things. I'm, of course, partially biased there, since one of my current athletes at my school is getting ready to head her way next year. So really excited about that one as well. So again, that'll be next Monday, September 30th, 8:05 p.m. Coach Stephanie Webb of the UT Tyler Patriots will be joining us live. So that is going to do it again for our listeners, our supporters. All right. If you're new, you're joining us for the first time, go on. You can find us. You can follow us on Twitter, Twix, as we call it, at 50_50 pod, as well as on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, on YouTube, the 50_50 podcast, as well as wherever you listen to on the audio podcast side, wherever your preferred podcast platform, as we like to call it. Go on there, like, rate, subscribe on YouTube. Go on there, subscribe as well. Hit that bell notification so you get notified every time we go live, which is about 99% of the time, because just about everything we do is live. We like to keep it like that. We're excited. My final message really is continue for our athletes out there everywhere. I know it's a time, especially some of our seniors that haven't committed yet. They're coming up on that moment where they're getting ready to commit. All our recent commitments that have put their out that have verbally committed and put that out there on social media. Congratulations, and wishing everybody the absolute best of luck in their fall club seasons. And we start getting a little closer to our upcoming high school season, which will be kicked off by the November 20th, I believe, and my dates are correct. November 20th through, or might be 21st through the 23rd, actually. November 21st through the 23rd, the TASCO, Texas High School Soccer Coaches Convention in beautiful Moody Gardens in Galveston, Texas. we are excited to be coming to you live, covering it once again with our great friends at Tasco. So that is going to do it. So for head coach of the Rice Owls, Coach Brian Lee, I am your host, Coach Hector Cano. Thank you again for joining us. And until the next time, you know what to do. Keep downloading and keep listening. You've been listening to the 50/50 Podcast, powered by the 50/50 Podcast Network. Help us continue to grow by liking, rating, and subscribing on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to follow us on X at 50_50 pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. Until the next time, keep downloading and keep listening.